I'm Linda Fox. I'm Senior Reporter PhocusWire, and I'm here with Hannah Bennett. She is Brand Partnerships Lead. That be correct?
Yes, yeah.
TikTok. So welcome.
For travel, Brand Partnerships Lead for travel.
Yes, thank you for adding that. So, the power of short form video, I mean, it is incredibly engaging, incredibly powerful. Here we are talking on video, and this will be, 10 minutes, so probably a little longer than what you're used to working with. But just talk me through, what you're seeing in terms of trends and this medium getting out there.
Yeah, well, first up, you mentioned 10 minutes being longer. Well, actually, our limit now for video on TikTok is 10 minutes.
Okay.
I don't know if, one really great example was Hilton. I don't know if you saw the relatively recent Hilton ads that went out that was 10 minutes long, and still short form, but we're definitely moving to sort of longer form narrative storytelling.
Okay, and does that get the same engagement, interaction, given that we're all a bit like goldfish?
I mean, well, if it's the right content, then yes. I mean, this was a really great piece of content.
Okay.
It had Paris Hilton in it, which I think always helps.
A big draw.
Exactly, not every brand can tap into Paris Hilton, but I think it still had lots of other features that kept the audience going. It had a really great hook. It encouraged people to watch the whole 10-minute piece. And I think we don't give people enough credit in terms of their attention spans as well. I think if users and brands and the community on TikTok are creating content that tells a story, that hooks you, that has that hook, then people are going to watch it and engage with it. And I think that Hilton video, I should check this, but I think it had about 500,000 likes, 28,000 comments and engagements. So people absolutely loved it. And that's not saying that every travel brand should be creating 10-minute pieces of content, but I think it definitely
it's a mark of the fact that it's getting longer.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
It sort of sets the tone and shows that you definitely don't have to think about those 6-second sort of bumpers that we did when sort of social video first
started.
Came into.
And it's kind of interesting that it's Hilton, and this is not to discredit Hilton in any way, shape or form, but perhaps a year or two they might not even have been on the platform.
Yeah.
So are you seeing, many more big established and maybe even a bit corporate travel brands getting on the platform?
Yeah, great question and completely relevant, completely accurate, 100%, I think. So I've been at TikTok 3 years, and those more, like you said, more traditional, more corporate brands that have really strict brand guidelines have taken longer to come onto the platform. But then it's great to see that it's not just the Ryanairs of the world that are having fun with it. So that 3 years ago, Ryanair was the only brand I could reference.
Yeah, they were there. I mean, they're early with a lot of these things.
Exactly, they're early, but I think that also intimidates some of those more traditional brands, because they think if Ryanair are doing it, we're British Airways, we definitely don't want to be doing that and being silly.
And Ryanair has that particular voice as well,
exactly,
doesn't it? So.
Yeah, which works really well. But I think it's great to see in the last sort of 6 to 12 months, brands such as Hilton and like British Airways, they only launched onto the platform, I think in January this year.
Okay.
They're nearly at 200,000 followers, and they, if you haven't, I would check out their profile. Okay. They really have fun with it without pushing the boundaries to the extent of Ryanair. They're of course not being completely irreverent, not being not antagonising their customer base.
Ryanair's got a certain amount of snark, hasn't it?
Exactly.
I mean, it
Whereas BA do it, I think, in a really great way. They jump onto trends, and again, they show up in such a different way on TikTok than they do on other platforms, and it's just really great to see. But like you said, a year ago they weren't even on the platform.
So two kind of follow-ups to that. One would be, can you give us a feel for the sort of latest volumes, kind of related to travel or hashtag travel or around that?
Yes, yeah. So hashtag travel has, when I last checked earlier this week, it goes up quickly, but I think we had about 177 billion video views. It's one of the largest categories of content on the platform. And it's not just travel, within that there's budget travel, there's luxury travel, there's airlines, there's hotels, there's experiences, but a lot of content will also be tagged with hashtag travel, and that's sort of like the biggest general category. But it's also great to see so many subcategories within that doing really well.
And for TikTok itself, for these brands to come on to the platform, and I think we've talked about this before, but what have you done kind of in the past 6 months, maybe a year, to encourage travel, make it easier for them, make it more attractive for them?
Yeah, great question. So I think back from when we sort of touched on the fact that there were those brands who are those sort of leaders, the ones that wanted to do things out of the box, it just takes time, and they're the early adopters. And same as our user base, right? So 4 years ago, the user base with Gen Z, it was very young millennials, it was early adopters. Over the last 3 years, we've seen that completely diversify. So I think brands have seen that we now have over 1 billion users across the world as part of the TikTok community.
Yeah.
There is someone from every age group, every background, every interest group. People aren't just watching dancing videos and lip syncing videos.
Cats.
I mean, cat talk is huge. But if you're interested in cats, you're going to see cats. If you're interested in travel, you're going to see travel. And I think brands have really started to realize that. And as those more traditional brands like Hilton that are on the platform and throwing out the rule book, it just encourages more brands within that space to get involved and have a little bit of fun on TikTok. And
are you generally seeing, I mean, you reference Hilton there, but are you generally seeing travel brands getting cleverer, kind of more mature with the platform?
Yes, for sure. I think, and especially the brands who have been on there maybe over a year and they've started to experiment much more. So Hilton's 10-minute ad is perfect example. But Booking.com, for example, I think they've got 600,000 followers on the platform. They have some really great content. They jump onto a lot of trends and different themes. They go to a lot of events that they sponsor. They give away they do like a ticket giveaway, ticket swap. That sort of content of people that work at Booking going out in the crowd saying, would you swap your Super Bowl ticket? Would you swap your Eurovision ticket for I think it's $5,000 or $10,000 worth of travel credits. And that's sort of the moment, like running through the crowd, like that's the exciting content that they've started to have a play around with.
Super appealing, super engaging.
Exactly. And I think, and it tells a little bit of a story. Are they going to get the swap? You have to watch the content to find out. But I think that's such a shift from brands, the traditional travel content of a beautiful influencer walking down a sandy, perfect beach. Like we've seen such a shift of content moving to much more sort of authentic storytelling and away from that sort of glossy, polished magazine shoot style. Yes, exactly.
Does it necessarily make it difficult for travel brands to kind of get onto the platform, establish themselves, their voice, their tone, because it's now kind of almost noisier from a travel perspective?
Yeah, good question, because it's not easy. I think gone are the days when you can just go viral for nothing almost. I think brands do have to have a little bit of a strategy, but also I think there's the balance with that and not overthinking. Not every piece of content is going to get a lot of traction. And I think what I hear time and time again from the brands that I work with is that this piece of content we planned for weeks and it didn't get much engagement.
It didn't
resonate. It didn't take off. Whereas this piece that one of the social execs had a good idea on a Saturday, pitched it to us on Monday, it was live by Tuesday morning. That's the piece of content that gathers that huge amount of engagement and it takes off. Sometimes it's the content that you don't sort of plan and think about too much. That can perform really well for your brand.
Can you go back sometimes and identify or help them identify what might have gone wrong?
So it's not normally that something's gone wrong. It's more like a learning in terms of why something maybe didn't perform as well. Was it too polished? Did it go through too many levels?
Did they kind of overthink it?
Did they overthink it? But yeah, as a team, we work closely with a number of really fantastic sort of market leading travel brands to help them on their like organic and paid strategies.
Okay. Now I did just want to mention Douyin. Is that a
Douyin?
Did I murder that name?
No.
Douyin. In China specifically?
Yes, in China
specifically. Now I saw some stories about their calendar-based hotel booking, and I don't think that actually necessarily Douyin or Byte. Yes, thank you, Byte Dance.
No.
Sort of gave much colour or talked about it that much. But I am just curious about the idea of bridging the gap between content and transaction.
Yes.
Because we have spoken about the shop side and how travel might feed in. And
Yes,
what we might see?
We are very excited about this, especially me and my team working on travel specifically. We now have TikTok shops, which you can purchase your traditional sort of e-commerce fashion beauty brands on TikTok.
Yep.
Travel is a little bit more complicated. It's a much more of a dynamic purchase, dates, travelers, etc.
Right, there's more complexity there.
Much more complexity, but it's definitely an area that as we sort of focus more on conversion campaigns, whatever that conversion is, if it's a purchase, a booking, a sign up, like that's where we're shifting our tech to and our product to. And we've seen a lot of success across e-com. And now we're really kind of digging into travel, and it's sort of a bit more of a watch this space. We have video shopping ads coming out soon for travel. We're hoping to test them in this summer, and that will be sort of the start of things to come.
Does something like what's being trialed in China, you know, does that translate well, or do you have to figure it out very differently for each market?
Very differently, I would say. I think the way consumers interact and purchase and watch a lot of sort of live streaming in China is very different.
It's conducive to that kind of product.
Exactly, yeah. So we have to be, so TikTok doesn't operate in China. We have the ability to sort of build our own product for the audience that we're working with. And yeah, as you kind of sort of led that question, it is very different the way the audience interacts.
So just final question here, you know, do you, if you're a travel company, small or large, you know, first question, are there opportunities for both big and small companies? And, you know, if you want to just dip your toe in the water, just start trialing, start playing with it, what's your best advice?
Yeah, so I would say there is definitely, it's easy for me to say how I can TikTok, but there's definitely a space for big brands and little brands. And I think that's really because of how the algorithm works. So when you go onto TikTok, if you like cats, you're going to see cats. If you like travel, you're going to see travel. It doesn't matter how many followers that creator, that content creator or that brand who's talking about cats has. If you like cats, you're going to see that content. Same for travel. So you don't need to be a massive brand with millions of followers because the algorithm is based on the content.
It'll feed it to the person that's looking for it.
Exactly, rather than a social graph. So it doesn't matter who you follow. You don't go to TikTok to find out what your friends are doing at the weekend. It's about consuming the content that appeals to you. And the algorithm is very strong in terms of feeding that content. So if it's a small brand who's had a go and created content, they definitely have the ability to show up in a user's feed. In terms of advice, I would really say I wouldn't overthink it because as much as you want to have a bit of a strategy and say, look, I'm going to give TikTok a go, I'm going to test it for 3-4 months, post a couple of times a week. Just don't overthink the
Just
content.
get on there and have a go.
Exactly. We have a really great creative center that I can link to where you can filter by market and filter by category to see what are the trending hashtags, the trending music, creators, which can help fuel a bit of a strategy. But I think there's no what's the word, alternative to actually downloading the app and spending just a bit of time on there, getting to understand what appeals to you as an individual and what might work for your brand. What can you sort of recreate?
One thing I just wondered was that, you know, if your voice is sort of, we spoke earlier about a Ryanair and a British Airways. Should you carry across your everyday voice onto TikTok, or should you try and be more playful? I mean, you know, because you could come across authenticity type issues, couldn't you?
Yes, yeah. I think there's a place for both, and I think kind of back to British Airways and a lot of other brands on the platform, they do a really great job of still promoting their values. But like you said, they do it in a bit more of a fun, authentic, colloquial way. They engage. I think the next step also for brands who have been on the platform a while was really engaging with the community. People are commenting, they love brands on TikTok. How can the brand then sort of engage and leverage?
Respond and reply. And,
you can respond with another video, which I know a lot of brands are doing. So it just shows that there's sort of a two-way conversation.
Okay, Hannah, thank you very much.
Pleasure, thank you.